Okay, we're going to start a new unit looking at a series on how the United States becomes a world power at the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, so we're going to examine the unlocking of Japan and also how the United States gets Alaska. So what will we do now? What is the definition of the term isolationism? You take a look at the word isolation. Okay, isolationism is to have little to do with the political affairs of other nations. And why was the United States an isolationist country? Well, beginning with the advice of George Washington, America wanted to avoid being dragged into Europe's frequent wars. Fearing the influence of outsiders, Japan chose to completely isolate itself from other nations in the 1600s. You can see this cartoon here, these different animals representing different European powers kind of collapsing in on China and also Japan. And that's the way the Far East would see imperialism spreading throughout their lands. So why the U.S. want to establish a relationship with Japan? Well, trade. The U.S. wanted to sell goods to Japanese consumers. Also, sailors to ensure proper treatment of shipwrecked U.S. sailors. Fuel, and to purchase fuel or coal from U.S. whaling and fishing ships. So you have President Millard Fillmore sends Commodore Matthew Perry to Japan in 1853. This is the way the Japanese portrayed Commodore Matthew Perry from America. Alright, so Perry arrived with 4 steam-powered warships, and this really impressed the Japanese. The Japanese were hundreds of years behind in technology on seafaring, and when the Americans rolled up in steam-powered engines, their jaws dropped, like, wow. Alright, so Perry returned to Japan in 1854 with twice as many ships. Alright, so you have the Treaty of Kanagawa was signed in March of 1854, in which the U.S. received all of their demands from the Japanese. And this is going to open up trade with Japan. So Japan's a little bit different than China. Japan sees American forces and European forces and are kind of thinking, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And the only way we're going to survive as a culture is to industrialize and try to catch up with the West. And you'll see a little bit different in China, where China tries to stay isolationist with the European powers. Let's see, technology and also guns here. They usually have a way of influencing people. Alright, the effects on Japan. Japan realized that they needed to become a more modern and industrialized nation. So by 1860, Japan sends their first steam-powered warship to the United States to kind of show off what they've been doing. Alright, now Alaska. Secretary of State William Seward bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million in 1867. Okay, many Americans referred to this purchase as Seward's Folly, or Seward's icebox, thinking Alaska was a barren wasteland. There's this massive piece of land up here, pretty rough climate, and people down here in the 48 were thinking, what is this Alaska and why do we have this? But we buy it from Russia, and we get a pretty good deal for it. So this is a check that we wrote to Russia for $7.2 million on August 1st, 1868 in Alaska. So Alaska has paid for itself over and over since then. Now you have the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, which we have oil, natural resources, also gold, fish, copper, timber, and Alaska has paid for itself many times over. Probably a good move on our part to get Alaska. This is the Trans-Alaska Pipeline running through Alaska.